All right, so Ellery Richardson is the president of the Nashville Food Co-op. This is an emerging community grocery, and they're in the process of building the startup memberships needed to open the doors to become a fully functioning food cooperative. So I'm really excited to hear about the direction you guys are going and where y'all are at right now, and just kind of about what a food co-op is in general. So you can take it away and share your screen.
All right, great. And thank you all for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. All right, I think I got the right screen. All right, where's the slideshow button? Okay, there we go. So like Alex said, I'm working on starting the Nashville Food Co-op, and what inspired this idea was I mentioned to Gary earlier that I went to Vermont for law school, and there are cooperatives all over there, and there was a cooperative in my small town, and I never really understood what the food co-op was until I lived there, and then I got spoiled, and I came home to Nashville and just wondered why we didn't have one. So that's kind of the start, sort of a selfish start, and since that, I've even learned even further how great co-ops are and why Nashville needs one. So our mission is to provide a community-owned grocery for affordable, sustainable, and local food. And the Nashville Co-op will be a community hub where people enjoy full-service grocery shopping with organic, local, and consciously sourced products. So our motto is locally focused and community-owned. And so what is a cooperative? It is a business that exists for the benefit of the members. It's financed, owned, and controlled by the people who use it. So a cooperative exists to meet the needs of its members, not for shareholder or investor profit. That is what makes it different from most other companies out there. It's technically not a nonprofit, but it's not really a for-profit either, because all profits are either reinvested back into the cooperative or given back to the members through lower prices or what's called a patronage dividend, which is similar to REI. If you remember of REI, you'll get a percentage back based on how much you have purchased. So that's what a patronage dividend is. And that's usually given annually if the co-op decides to do that. A lot of times they'll just keep it and reinvest it in the business. So there are four main types of co-ops. Credit unions or cooperatives. There are grower co-ops like Florida's Natural or Equal Exchange Coffee, where the farmers are the members of the co-op, or there are electric co-ops, and then there are consumer co-ops. And the Nashville Food Co-op is a consumer co-op because the members are the people who purchase the products. And this is, just a list of examples of different cooperatives and companies you might not have realized were actually co-ops. And just a little bit of history. We're kind of in the US in what's considered a third wave of food cooperatives. Cooperatives have been around since at least the 1800s, but they've undergone three waves of popularity. The first was in the 20s for just basic access and economic growth. And then Roosevelt's New Deal channeled a lot of money through electric co-ops, after that. And then in the 70s, Nashville food stores became very popular because normal groceries didn't carry certain types of foods that became popular then. And now we're sort of in this third wave as desire for local food and growing a local economy sort of in response to big ag and big business that has taken over. And then a form of economic control to address food deserts. That's over the past couple of years, that's become a driving force of cooperatives getting started. So there are 7 principles that govern all cooperatives. First one is voluntary and open membership. Membership is open to everyone who wants to join without discrimination. Democratic member control. Those who buy the goods and services control the company, and it is always one person, one vote. No one can have a majority interest or buy more control than anyone else. The third principle is member economic participation. Economic benefits are in proportion to business members conduct with the co-op rather than a capital investment. Everyone pays the same one-time membership fee. No one can pay more membership fees to get more profit. But the more someone shops at the co-op, the higher their benefits. Autonomy and independence. Any partnerships the Nashville Food Co-op forms will be done in a way that maintains democratic control and cooperative autonomy. Owners control co-ops, not investors or other companies. Education, training, and information are central to co-ops. Cooperatives provide education and training for members, managers, and employees so they can all effectively contribute to the development of the cooperative. 6, cooperatives work together to help other cooperatives in formal and informal ways. There are several cooperative groups that help new co-ops open and maintain their organizations, including the Cooperative Growers Association, the Cooperative Grower Network, and the Food Cooperative Initiative. The last principle is not showing. There we go. The last principle links the other principles together. Cooperatives operate with a concern for community. Because the members are part of the community, the co-op focuses on members' needs, working for the sustainable growth of their communities through community-focused policies and programs. So the 7 principles of co-ops begin to highlight how a cooperative grocery store is different from a traditional for-profit grocery. So let's take a look at how the shopping and ownership experience offers more than simply a place to shop. The cooperatives, because of the 7 principles we just talked about, are intrinsically different in their culture and structure than traditional grocery stores. They are a place for community. Shoppers can connect with the people who provide the products they purchase and other members of the co-op. Many co-ops hold community nights, including barbecues, $3 dinners, and wine tastings. The Nashville Food Co-op holds open meetups at local breweries when social distancing guidelines were allowing that. Now we meet virtually until we can meet in person safely again. Many community events focus on education, including cooking classes and healthy eating workshops. Examples from other cooperatives' class schedules include cold barbecue jackfruit, homemade salad dressings, pickling, watermelon mojitos, brain cookies, and spice up your life. Shopping can be an educational experience as well. Cooperatives use detailed labeling practices to educate shoppers on how their food is produced, like organic or biodynamic farming or integrated pest management. You can also find heritage food types, including heirloom vegetables or new food preparation methods. You can learn about the farmers and artisans that make the local products sold in the store. One common misconception is that food co-ops undermine local producers' financial stability by competing with farmers markets. Actually, food cooperatives provide another revenue stream for local farmers who often struggle to meet the requirements to sell to larger traditional grocery stores or can only sell limited quantities during seasonal farmers markets. Food cooperatives allow money to stay in the local economy. Both suppliers and profits stay in the communities. Shoppers buy groceries grown by farmers in their region. And one aspect that a lot of people don't realize is that many cooperatives also serve as a warehouse and owner of food processing equipment to allow the rest of the community to access local food, whether it be through local schools, churches, or restaurants. A true local food economy requires local processing to prevent spoilage and increase variety. This cannot be done without warehouses, equipment, and the transportation network. Many food cooperatives are able to use the grocery store to fund this very important behind-the-scenes work. Another benefit is mutual aid. The last principle we talked about in the 7 principles of a cooperative was concern for community. This is the principle that drives mutual aid, which is essentially community helping community. Mutual aid is support to community members that is self-organized and egalitarian. All people deserve equal rights and opportunities. It focuses on direct action with the goal of social transformation, which is different than a nonprofit top-down donor model. Instead, the community is the center of everything. There's no hierarchy. The community decides what is needed and makes it happen. And so for this presentation, I added a little bit about benefits to the environment, since I figured this group would be interested in that. Cooperatives have a strong focus on working with local farmers, producers, and makers. which has environmental benefits. I know some listening are likely experts in this field. I'm no expert, but I'll briefly touch on the landscape as I understand it. So in the United States, conventionally produced foods are often said to travel 1,500 miles from farm to plate. And then a senior associate at the director of CS Mott Group for Sustainable Food Systems found that conventional food distribution was responsible for 5 to 15 times more CO2 than local and regionally produced food. Of course, transportation only makes up 11% of agricultural emissions. The rest depends on farmer and producer management practices. However, cooperatives, if their owners vote for it, owners make the decisions, can set management practices requirements for producers they will purchase from, further encouraging sustainable agriculture. I know the cooperative in Knoxville, Three Rivers Market, only allows organic produce to be sold there. Not always certified, but confirmed organic practices. And additionally, many local farms and small businesses already have sustainable practices and are better able to adopt new sustainable practices. Animal management is also a big issue, varying from conventional feedlots, which account for a major source of greenhouse gas emissions and water pollution from animal waste, to the emerging field of regenerative agriculture. Some studies have shown that regenerative agricultural practices can actually draw carbon into the soil and rebuild the topsoil the decades of traditional farming has destroyed. And then there are reduced safety risks. Long distance food has many more points of potential contamination as it bounces from warehouse to warehouse. And then local agriculture helps maintain local nutrient cycling balance. The way I understand this, which is still a very amateur level of understanding, is that monocultures, of course, create wastes where nature has a perfect system where everything is recycled. And an example of a nitrogen cycle that conventional ag uses right now that's problematic is that phosphorus is fertilized grain grown in the Midwest, which is then shipped to the Northeast for dairy cow feed. And then the manure from the cows is applied to fields in the Northeast, where then you have excess phosphorus running off into streams, lakes, and the ocean, which can cause eutrophication and deadly algae blooms. Now, if these nutrients were cycling locally, instead of moving different pieces all across the country, there would be much less or maybe even no excess. And local food also benefits our health by encouraging green space, variety, and nutrition. Supporting local keeps local land in production. Farmland in Middle Tennessee is under increasing development pressure. Purchasing from local farmers helps keep these farms profitable. And there's also a lot to be said for costs and tastes. While sometimes local food is cheaper because of less transportation costs and middlemen, even if it's not, more money is going to the farmer and the local economy. And you could never convince me that produce from California is just as good as my local CSA box. There's been a lot of interest recently on heritage breeds and varieties. These varieties fell out of favor because they cannot meet the demands of conventional agriculture. I think the best example of this is the tomato. In my opinion, most of the tomatoes at traditional grocery stores are very flavorless. I didn't even realize I liked tomatoes until I started buying local ones. Just the flavors are so different, and those varieties of tomatoes just don't stand up to mechanical harvesting and transportation, and so they've been bred over time to lose their flavor. And some studies even said they've lost nutrition over the years. So going back to the Nashville Co-op, when will this be a reality? Because we are a startup and still working on opening. So this is our map to opening, and there are 5 major steps to opening a co-op. And we get these steps from the Food Cooperative Initiative, which is an organization that's funded through the USDA, and they work on helping startup groceries across the country become brick and mortar grocery stores. And this is what they have seen be successful across the country in terms of co-ops opening and staying open. So we're following their blueprint. So step 1 is conception and research. This step happens when the co-op has between 0 to 300 owners. During this step, we organize and recruit volunteers, incorporate the organization, get bylaws, design a mission and logo, and begin our ownership drive. And owners are key for our growth in this step. And one of the other things we're doing at this point is judging the community's interest in even having a cooperative, because it's very community-based, and if the community is not interested, then there's no sense in moving forward. And step 2 is organization. During this step, we develop a business plan and set up a loan committee to fund the construction of the store. We set up a finance committee and reach out to the community and create marketing for the co-op. Step 3 is planning and location. In this step, we conduct a final market analysis to decide where to construct the store and what to stock for our customers. We choose a site and begin designing a store. We reach out to farmers and other suppliers to stock the co-op and finalize the business plan and open the store. And step 4 is pre-construction. This is where we secure the loan funds to build the store, complete the store design, and define the equipment the store will need, and hire a general manager as well. And then step 5 is construction and opening. In this step, we finalize the budget and marketing plan and hire and train the staff, and then open the store. And so we are focusing on owner growth right now. And here is our timeline with the goals that we have for each stage. Now, of course, these goals are owner dependent, but this is what we're shooting for. By the end of 2021, we'll move into stage 2 and further develop our committees and refine our business plan. By the end of 2022, we'll start looking for a location. By the end of 2023, we'll have over 1,000 members and can begin construction to open the store. So this is the total ownership we have right now. We have 171 members. As you can see, the past year, we've experienced exponential growth. So we're very excited that the momentum is building to bring a community grocery to Nashville. And the faster we get owners, the faster we can progress through the steps to opening. The number one question we receive is, where will the store be located? And this is, of course, important to most of you. The good news is we don't know, but it's up to y'all. Of course, there's pricing and real estate and market study factors, but every owner will have a say in where the store opens. This is one way the Nashville Food Co-op respects the principle of democratic member control. And as you saw, it takes a long time to open a co-op because it takes cooperation from the many members of the community. But once a cooperative is established, history tells us they are stable institutions that benefit members for years to come. Until then, the Nashville Food Co-op owners are participating in a buyer's club. Once every 2 months, the co-op submits an order with Frontier Wholesale Cooperative and distributes the products to members. So you can start saving on groceries right away. Frontier Wholesale includes organic and sustainable products as well as traditional products. Another important benefit is the opportunity to meet like-minded people and join some of the community events. Founding members get to begin providing their input right away. You might even decide to join one of the committees to help open the store. So if you want to join us, you can visit the Nashville Food Co-op website to become a member owner. And there's a one-time fee to become a member, and members are owners for a lifetime. And one membership covers an entire household. We also have payment plans and gift memberships available. And then cooperatives depend on the cooperation of the community. So please spread the word and tell other Nashvillians who may be interested in shopping sustainably and locally about the co-op. And of course, you can always follow us on social media. And owners are central to making the Nashville Food Co-op a reality. Without enough owners, we'll never open. But I think in a city the size of Nashville, Nashville needs a co-op, and I think it's time. So that's it. Any questions?
Where are the majority of out of the 171, and where are the majority of those folks located? Are they like downtown Nashville or sort of all over Davidson County and Williamson County or other counties?
Yeah, so it's probably been about a year since we've really mapped it out, but we did do this, and it was surprisingly very spread out. Now, most people are in Davidson County, but we do have a handful that are in the surrounding counties. And it's really in a lot of neighborhoods. There are people in West Nashville, there are people in East Nashville, there's some in South Nashville. I mean, they're everywhere. So there's no defining neighborhood yet based on ownership.
Are some of these people farmers who are the co-op buys from?
So we're not buying from any local farmers yet. We do have some local farmers that have become owners because they believe in what the Nashville Food Co-op is about. Now, I will say we are in initial talks of maybe expanding our member benefits, like we do the frontier buying right now, to doing where we offer benefits for local food as well. We're just running into some logistical challenges with that, since right now we're fully volunteer board and volunteer committees.
What?
I'm so glad you're doing this. Go ahead, Gary.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I am in Knoxville, and we have the Three Rivers, here, and it is so incredible to see, and just like really nice to have local food nearby that I feel like is always really tasty. One thing I was wondering though, like I'm not a member of it, I just go sometimes for like specific things. But when I go there, it's like a little more expensive. And so I think that's because I'm not a member, but it's kind of the idea that your membership would get you more discount on that, or how does that work?
Yes, so it does depend, but essentially your membership will work like a Kroger card. Okay. So the discounts on any given item are for the owners only.
Gotcha.
And then it also depends what the items are. I mean, grocery margins are very slim, and different products make more money than others in the conventional grocery store. So there's more wiggle room to lower prices. I think my understanding is there have been studies done, and overall, and if you look at everything, the prices are lower, but any individual item may or may not be. And of course, it depends on what that item is. If you're buying, I don't know, some very non-bleached bamboo specially sourced toilet paper, that's going to be more expensive just because of what it is.
Right.
So it's really hard to say. It really depends. But overall, the prices are lower.
Cool.
The Frontier cooperative you referred to, what do they offer?
So they are a cooperative in Iowa, but they have a very large wholesale business. And so if you go into Whole Foods or Turnip Truck, there actually are Frontier products there. And they offer a lot of different things. I think they were most known when they first got started in their wholesale for bulk spices, which is what I mostly buy, a lot of bulk items in terms of that. But they also sell, seventh generation products, a bunch of different stuff. And yeah, they sell a lot of stuff. The one complaint I have gotten from them, from owners, is that they don't do as much bulk as they would like to see. Like you can't really buy, 10 pounds of rice. They don't really do that. They'll do like 1 pound. So there are other markets that we've looked at in terms of bulk buying that would do that. But in terms of just, wholesale prices for products that you're not going to buy locally right now anyway, of course, we always hope you buy local. It's a good option.
Okay, thank you. What does the money do in the meantime between now and 2023?
Yes, so a lot of it, just sits there in equity, and we hold it for when we're going to start moving forward with some of these stages. But we are using some of it, and we are doing marketing and trying to get the word out. And so we do spend some of it. And so the way the financing for co-ops works is that the way, we usually will get a loan from cooperative banks, because most traditional banks don't understand co-ops. Some of them will, but generally there are a handful of cooperative banks that understand cooperatives and work with them, and that's who we would go to. And so they look at our equity, but they look at the ownership numbers more than that. and the market studies, just because it is a commitment from the community. Like, this many people have committed to this idea, which means it's accessible enough. And that's really the purpose of getting the owners early, to build that community to make sure that the co-op will be successful. So we do use some of the money, and then we save some of it because we are going to need to start spending it once we get on to the later stages.
Open a co-op, you lease a place, buy it, or how does that usually work?
It depends on the community. Both are options. For us, it will depend on how much money we're able to get from a bank, how much money we're going to need to get started in terms of everything else, and then what's available. With real estate prices in Nashville, what they are, I would imagine we would lease, but that might not be true. We might be able to buy. It just really depends.
How big of a place do they look for generally?
Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, how big of a place do they usually, I mean, do they just start with a big building, or do they start smaller and try to expand? How does that work?
So it could work either way. So we did an initial market study back in 2016 or 2015, just to see if the idea would even work before we started getting owners. And what the market study, first of all, it came back very positive, but what they advised to us is that you need to be, based on Nashville as your market, you need to be a larger store, because there's enough people here. Like, you need to compete with the bigger groceries. You need to have everything. Now some co-ops start as, smaller little bodegas and then get bigger, which we haven't completely ruled out. That might actually work for us. That has worked for others. But our initial market study recommended that we go big and full service, just because of what Nashville is and how big it is.
Is that, do you also benefit from that by having one location, or have there been occasions where there are smaller locations scattered about an area?
So I missed the beginning of that question about locations.
Yeah, when do they have a, has there ever been a pattern of having smaller, less options in different areas, as opposed where people have more access to closer to home, or just one big place like you go to Costco?
Well, co-ops are never as big as Costco.
I know that, but what I'm saying is the co-op. I mean, when you go here to the Farmers Co-op, there's just one. I mean, there's a few scattered. There's one in Murfreesboro. There's one in Nashville. But there are places like where they just have smaller market stores as opposed to a big like superstore. Yes.
So our first goal is to get one store up and running, whatever that may look like. But in other cities, Milwaukee, for example, Outpost Food Co-op is the cooperative in Milwaukee. They started in the 70s, and at this point, they have 6 different locations because they have been so successful. And a couple of those are smaller that just fit the needs of that neighborhood. It just sort of depends, and each one's a little bit different. I mean, it's still the Outpost Food Co-op, so it's still Outpost, and it has a certain amount of, what makes it a co-op, but it'll look a little bit different in terms of smaller and different types of options, just to serve those neighborhoods.
Do you see that having a co-op in more of an urban area where you have a lot of densely populated high-rise condos, having a bigger store in that area because there's more people where they can have more access to it, possibly?
Yeah, potentially. It depends on what the market study will say. We're going to have to get it updated because it's already 4 years old at this point. So in some markets, a larger store like that would work in a very urban area. And other neighborhoods, like I spoke to a startup cooperative in Chicago, because the city is so big, they're doing a smaller co-op that's just focused on their neighborhood. I mean, there's no way they can market to all of Chicago, and there are already other co-ops in Chicago. So they decided that they're what they're going to be marketing towards, and the community they're going to be building is just in their neighborhood. So it just depends on the city.
Okay. Thank you.
How are the products chosen for the co-op?
So the owners will have a say. Like I said about Three Rivers Market, the owners decided that they wanted all the produce to be organic or to meet organic standards, even if it's not certified. And so that's what they are. There are some co-ops that are maybe in different lower income communities that are mostly conventional because that's what the community wants and needs. And it's all up to the owners as to whether they want to require certain practices or standards or certain types of food.
And kind of off of that, just like when we're talking about local, how local do you like anticipate the Nashville Co-op being? Because the Knoxville one has some products that are from like Georgia, but I mean that's like so closer than other options, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will depend on what's available because we've always been local first. That's been, you know, our plan from the beginning. But we would still rather get, you know, something from Georgia as opposed to California. So I think it'll just depend on how many farmers we could purchase from for that particular item and how much we can get from that farmer. And just, yeah, it will just depend. As local as possible is what I always say, but we won't really know until we start talking to farmers and making those purchases.
Yeah, in the Nashville area, what do you see the prominent supplies are from farmers in this area? What are they farming?
We haven't gotten to that point to really look into that. I mean, I know in terms of Tennessee in general, I think our biggest output is soybeans, which is obviously not what we would be looking for because that's, you know, a different market. So I don't know. That's something that we'll look into when we get there.
Do you find that starting these co-ops, do you find the farmers changing what they actually produce to supply these stores?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can say that in places where co-ops have started, they've been able to support a lot more farmers. So there are a lot newer farmers, younger farmers that are able to get into farming because they have a revenue stream that they didn't have before. So maybe that includes maybe someone from farming soybeans changing over. I don't know the answer to that.
How do you communicate with your members?
Right now, it's pretty much only through email with COVID. We did try to have monthly get-togethers of some type before the pandemic hit. We haven't really been doing much since then. We do send out emails monthly, and every year we have our annual owners meeting, which is usually mid to end February or early March.
And help me again, you know, in West Nashville, we have a very, very solid farmers market. How you coordinate or would work with farmers market, because I think, you know, that there's been a big growth of them across the city.
Yes. So what we saw, I can speak anecdotally from, well, wasn't really my experience, but in Vermont at the co-op that I went to, when I moved there, it was already in existence, but people told me that there was a farmer's market in the square. It's a small New England town, but it was pretty small. And it wasn't until the co-op came onto the square, that all of a sudden the farmers market's about 4 times as big, because people become more invested in knowing who their local farmers are and seeing that food and recognizing that name. And so from all the anecdotal evidence I've seen, I think there have been studies too, it's only been a synergistic relationship, just in terms of a lot of those farmers will also sell to the food co-op. And so you get to know them. If you don't already go to the Richland Park Farmers Market or whatever farmers market, then they're bringing more people to the awareness of that farm. And sometimes they will start going to the farmers market because they'd rather see the person in person.
I have a really, really negative question.
Okay.
But if I became a member, I mean, it's a little bit of a chunk of money in my mind. And then if it didn't expand, what happens to that money?
Yes. No, that is a question we get a lot. So you are investing in a startup. And so there is a chance that it won't happen. I think it will happen just based on, I think Nashville's ready for a food co-op and everything I've seen through our studies, but there is a chance. And if that happens, I mean, everyone has equal equity in the startup that's an owner. So we will do our best to wrap up and give back what we have left to the owners. So you likely wouldn't get your full share back, but you would get back a portion of that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So these days I've been ordering my groceries online. I was wondering if you know of any food co-ops that have pulled off online ordering.
You know, I'm not sure. I have not spoken to other food co-ops really since COVID. I don't think any of them that I know of are really doing it before. I would not be surprised if they're doing it now. All that I have heard is a lot of relief efforts that other co-ops have been doing in terms of food security. But I haven't heard about online marketing or online shopping and delivering.
I see. A nice thing. One of the things that I've noticed, because I'm on the spectrum, is that I don't have to walk into grocery stores anymore and hear the beeping of checkout machines, and it's all overwhelming to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine if things continue the way they are, with online becoming such a huge presence, that we would have an online option. Just can't really say till we get there.
Sounds good.
Do you have any resources that you could share, just like things that helps you kind of learn about why local food is important and things like that?
Yeah, I can get something together to give to you. Most of my information comes from the Food Cooperative Initiative, which is geared towards the people starting the co-ops. So I'd have to look a little bit to find things that aren't so specifically geared towards this audience, but I can definitely do that.
Yeah, this is just a really cool topic and seems to be like really emerging across the U.S.
Yeah, we'd love you to do an article for us too, if you would like, talking about it more, that we can send out to our memberships in our newsletter or in our monthly roundup.
Yeah, I can do that.
Would be great. Wow, would be great.
I'm going to become a member. I encourage everyone to, because the more of us that do it, the more likely they can actually get things going. And Nashville really is growing. I think it's pretty wild that we don't already have one, to be honest. I think we can definitely sustain it. We just have to have people buy in.
Yeah, I've noticed that the biggest problem we've had is that people just don't understand what it is, because there isn't one here. And we get a lot of excitement from people who have just moved here from a city that had a co-op because they understand it. But once you understand it, I think it's obvious why it's such a great option to have in the city.
Where is the closest one to Nashville now? You know,
there is only one in Tennessee, and it's in Knoxville, the Three Rivers Co-op. I also think there's one in Lexington, Kentucky. I've not been to that one, but I think there's one there as well.
So if we had one in Nashville, which one would it be closest to resemble between those?
I'm not sure. I think I would guess in terms of city demographics that about 5 years ago, there was a co-op that started in Durham, North Carolina. And I think those Nashville and Durham have been compared a lot in terms of similar cities. So I would imagine it would look like the Durham co-op, but it also would look like the Nashville co-op. Each co-op is different because it reflects its community.
Which one's been there the longest? That's close to here. Has the one in Knoxville been there longest, or Lexington?
I'm not sure when the one in Lexington started, so I don't know. I do think that the Knoxville one is a lot bigger.
Yeah, I think maybe we can make a road trip to the one in Knoxville and check it out, because I'm kind of boycotting Kentucky right now.
I will say their general manager, Jackie Arthur, who runs the Three Rivers Market, is amazing. We met with her when, back in 2015 about starting a co-op in Nashville, and she was very excited, very willing to help. I mean, it's a great business. I stop in there every time I go through Knoxville.
Okay, thank you.
So how does the food co-op compare to the turnip truck?
I think, number one, it won't be for profit. The turnip truck is just owned by one person. I don't know a lot about him or his business, so I can't really speak in comparisons that way, but it would be more community focused, and it would not be a for-profit grocery store.
Was that, I think a long time ago, like in the 80s, that operation before it was the turnip truck was a co-op. Did you ever hear anything like that?
I've heard about a market called Sunshine Grocery. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Oh no, this was it. No. This was the place where the turnip truck is, and I think it was called a co-op back a million years ago.
As far as I know, and I have talked to people who have been in Nashville a long time, that there has never been a true cooperative grocery in Nashville.
Okay.
Buddy said Trader Joe bought.
Yeah, did Trader Joe buy Sunshine Grocery?
I think they were sold to Wild Oats, who was then bought by Whole Foods.
Right. Yep, that's what happened.
Yeah, and they were never a co-op either.
No, they weren't. They were just the first natural food store, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
wow.
the location of the turnip truck in East Nashville, it was a previous location, and it was really small, and you bought stuff in bags, and anyway, but that's okay. I believe your research.
The other store that might fit into the conversation is the produce place.
Yeah, that was it. I don't think that's.
I mean, I think it's still private, but it does date back to that same era as Sunshine.
Where is that located?
Produce place is on Murphy Road.
Oh. It's a great little store. It's a lot of local food. It's just really small.
Yeah. Really?
Really small.
Very, very small. But I do enjoy going in there.
So I need to ask a question. Is anybody on Zoom tonight here as a result of the outreach we did to the new and renewing members from December? Okay. More questions?
I was just going to say, as a maybe as a takeaway, Ellery, there were some great comments, I think, both from Faye and Dan. Anyone with some, sensory issues like Dan was describing, if you're, I think a co-op experience would be much quieter, a little bit more calmed down environment. So it might be, that's certainly a good option. And also the idea of at some point pursuing taking online orders if it gets to that. But yeah, I think great comments, great meeting.
Yeah, no, that was really good feedback, Dan. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah, we had one of our senators on a little earlier. I was going to do a shout out to Senator Campbell, but she's off now. So we had a few other people that have gotten off since, but it's good that people are paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great.
Thank you so much. Could you had a slide with I think it was either an email or the website. Yeah, if you would drop that in the chat, it might be nice for people to have.
And I didn't realize that there was an extension or with an email address for co-op.
Yeah, that's one of the new top level domains.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. And I'll probably be reaching out to you with some questions. So
definitely. Yeah, I dropped my email in the chat too. So feel free to shoot me an email or send a little message, and yeah.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for attending tonight. Thank you, Ellery.
Thanks, Ellery.
All right. Thank you.
See you at a meeting.
Thank you.